A long time ago, I raised a son to know his Caribbean from his Caribbean.
Now we're turning our arguments into content. This is I Am Your Father, where Gen X meets Gen Z in hyperspace.
Hello, I'm Graham.
And I am Braden. How you doing?
I'm having trouble keeping my headphones on, with my hat.
Just not so much of this, all right?
I know. It's just hard
lock
to do.
in.
It's
Lock
hard
in.
to do. Is this our final week?
Yeah, for our listeners.
For October week in costume?
Yes. Yeah. For our listeners who only listen and don't watch, we have dressed up in fun costumes every week or every episode in October, and this will be the last one.
Yeah, and you're missing out. So you should definitely tune in on video in either YouTube or Spotify. Yeah, and check us out that way. And if you were watching, you would see me struggling with my headphones because I have a gargantuan pirate hat on.
Yeah, we look super
awesome. Headphones don't want to stay. Yeah,
we look super awesome.
I'm finally not wearing a onesie.
There you go. You just been the onesie guy this whole time.
I've been the onesie guy. Yeah.
Minimal effort.
Listen. You reach a certain age, and someone tells you that you need to wear a costume. A onesie is a good option. It's just like, okay, all right.
Pretty lazy
I don't have to think
option.
too hard about this.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Well, I will say for maybe the first week, we're on theme.
We are.
Yeah.
And we didn't even plan it.
No way. This was by
total
pure
coincidence.
Chance.
Yeah.
Improbable.
Yeah. Because we do have a main theme this week of the Pirates of the Caribbean, or the Caribbean, or whichever you prefer to say.
What do you mean?
Because of that franchise.
Who calls it Pirates of the Caribbean?
Well, people refer to the region as the Caribbean more than they say the Caribbean. It's
but
only us.
The movies only refer to it as the Caribbean. I've never heard anybody argue that it's called Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's the only place where it's referred to that as. And I think it's because it's like a California Disneyland kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if anybody's walking around saying Pirates of the Caribbean, my respect for them goes down quite a bit, I think.
Well, you just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. Listen, I wanted to leave some space for those people just in case.
Oh.
And anyway, so we are going to be ranking Pirates of the Caribbean films. Why, you say? I guess just because we want to.
We just felt like it.
Yeah,
it's a franchise near and dear to both of our hearts. We love it quite a bit, and we decided, hey, let's do it.
Yeah, and you've even got the eye makeup going on.
Yep, I got a little eyeliner going on. I have to say, I really empathize with people who wear eyeliner. It really sucked having it applied. My wife put it on me, and it was horrible. It felt like she was poking my eyes the whole time.
You were being a little baby, weren't you?
I know. I told her, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just not trained. I'm not trained yet.
Yeah. But speaking of babies, it's come out this week that there was going to be a Ben Solo movie, and it didn't happen. And I don't know. We're not doing a 10 and 20 because this is supposed to be a mini episode, but apparently we're just going to rant forever. But I thought we should talk about that at least for a second or two. Were you surprised about this, or are you frustrated it didn't happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on it, if I'm being honest. I think The Rise of Skywalker was a major letdown, a really crappy way to end this 9-part series, the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
I do think that Ben Solo / Kylo Ren was maybe the best part of the sequels. It's very interesting. And so hearing just recently that Adam Driver himself and Steven Soderbergh were working on this project for 2+ years, Disney was in, but then Lucasfilm ultimately killed it. I don't know how to feel. I think it might have felt too soon had just right after Rise of Skywalker, they announced we have a sequel coming out, even though it was like advertised as the end of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
But I think if there was a sequel to be made, it maybe was that one, because he's the most interesting part to me.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part of this conversation is Soderbergh's involvement in it. I'm really curious what could have happened, because it seemed like a big part of the issue with the sequel trilogy was not really letting the directors that they brought on do their own thing,
right.
And instead they were having to translate their vision into a very small and rigid Lucasfilm and Disney box.
Right.
That's not what Soderbergh does. I mean, he does his own thing. He certainly does studio movies from time to time, but they give him the keys to the car and let him drive. So it'd be really interesting to me. I think that we might have gotten something as cool as what we saw in Andor.
Potentially.
When they actually did that, let somebody actually do their thing.
Yeah, so I think for that reason, I'm disappointed. It's hard to know what could have been, especially now that we're like several years removed from this. What is it, six years almost? Or maybe more. So it's hard to know. Ultimately, I think I do feel a little sad that we never got to see this come to life.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, you know what else we should mention, I think? Changing topics a little bit.
Go for it.
Our boys in blue are in the World Series.
Yes, they are. Man, we got to talk about that game.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The Shohei game?
Yeah.
Before the series started, before the NL Championship Series started, on this podcast, you said, we will win this because we have a Shohei.
We have a Shohei.
And, man, did he Hulk out. Incredible.
They say mathematically, just Shohei could have shown up to that game and won it for the Dodgers.
Pretty nearly.
With where they hit and everything like that, he was responsible for pretty much everything that happened that game.
Well, if you look at it too, his RBIs in the series, he had more RBIs in the series than the Milwaukee Brewers did. He had 4, or he had the same amount rather. He had 4 and they had 4 in the series. Just him.
So for people who aren't in the loop, we'll just say that Shohei Ohtani pitched for the Dodgers. First inning, struck out the side, which is all 3 batters in a row. He then ran to the dugout, put on his helmet and his arm pad, grabbed his bat, walked up to plate, and smacked a home run on the first pitch.
Yeah.
He then proceeded to get 7 more strikeouts and 2 more home runs in this game, making it probably the greatest performance from a single player ever, right?
Absolutely insane.
It has to be, right?
When you said he jogged off the field, that's an interesting point because pitchers never jog off the field.
No,
they walk.
He ran
very leisurely.
Yeah.
They look down. They're in their own zone. He took like 3 steps at a normal pace, and then you could see it dawned on him. Oh wait, I'm up.
Yeah,
and then he sprinted.
Yeah,
over there. That was
incredible.
Pretty crazy. The other thing I would say that I thought was different in his performance versus other performances I've seen or other games I've seen when he cranks a great home run or an important home run, he had an anger in him. He had a Hulk face. Like he had rage. You could tell that he was looking to silence some critics.
Yeah.
He and showed put the team on his back and get it done. It was absolutely amazing. I don't think I'll ever see a baseball game quite as amazing, or at least a single player's performance quite as amazing.
No, that was insane. And real quick also, I saw that the Dodgers stated that they made back their $700 million contract with him in his first season.
Yeah. The various endorsements and ticket sales and merchandise sales and everything else. Yeah,
makes it feel like he was undervalued and underpaid. Actually,
yeah. Well, I mean, the guy's not doing it for himself. He wants the team to win. He wants to be a part of a winning organization. He had them put team effort instead of his name on the MVP trophy, and put it in the dugout or in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
and I mean, obviously we're Shohei fans, but just pretty crazy. Unrelated to the Pirates of the Caribbean, but if Shohei was a character in Pirates, who would he be?
Ooh, whoever the most powerful character in Pirates is. Whoever. I mean, I guess I would just say maybe Jack Sparrow. I mean, he's the one. Everything's just going his way. He shows up and it goes in his favor ultimately. So
yeah.
I'd have to say that. All I know is I really am excited for this World Series, getting to watch the Dodgers, play whoever they're going to smack and take another World Series home.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be Toronto, and they play in Toronto the first 2 games, so that'll be interesting. And you know what? I mean, Toronto's a solid team. They can hit really well, so it's going to be interesting to see how our amazing pitching stands up against their amazing hitting.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, the series will be won or lost based on whether or not the Dodgers hitters can put the bat on the ball. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should cover 1 or 2 more topics here before we hop into Pirates.
Okay.
Real quick, it's now being reported Well, originally it was reported that Stranger Things finale, they pushed for it to be in theaters, and Netflix said no. And then that was released about a week ago, and people were like, are you kidding? I would totally go see the finale in theaters. And now they've run it back, and they said, we will release the finale into theaters on New Year's Eve. So is this something you think is worth going to see on New Year's Eve in the theaters? Because I think it's just going to be for the one night. Is this something you're particularly excited about? Or
I think I would go for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Netflix and AMC have had sort of a long-standing feud, and so it's. I mean, part of this is that they seem to be holding hands. It's not just this; it's also a K-pop Demon Hunters re-release that's going to be in AMC theaters as well. So it seems like Netflix and AMC are having a bit of a meeting of the minds and finally looking to at least bring us some limited release options rather than putting Netflix films in theaters for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks when they first open. But at least we're going to get some opportunity to see some special events, and I would definitely go on New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
How about you?
I think I would too. I mean, I think that's a pretty great way to start the year off. I think it's super fun, and that is assuming, of course, that it's good and it doesn't suck, which I think it will be. So I am always in favor of putting things in theaters. I think if you could see it in the theater, that's the best way to view it. So if the theaters are willing to open up their precious screens for a couple showings here and there, I think that's really great. One of my favorite things to do is there's so many. I think people are finally realizing that people will go to theaters for these. So many of these movies that have come out over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years are getting re-released almost every single year into theaters. And it's so fun to have an opportunity to go see something that's not new in the theaters. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great decision. And I hope that. To go. I mean,
certainly early on in my career as a driver, being able to get places on my own, I would drive into LA and Hollywood and go see some revival showing of Casablanca or The Great Escape or movies like that. And I love that, and I love special event films. I'm really hoping to get a chance to go to that Matrix experience at COSM. I just think theatrical experiences are where it's at. Side notes, quick pivot. It came out recently today or the day before. Our girl, the Scarlet Witch, Lizzie Olsen, has told has come out publicly saying she won't do a film if its intended release is streaming, straight to streaming. And I think that's pretty cool. And I am also hoping that maybe some more important performers take that same stance. I think some of them have done it maybe silently without coming out and saying it, but I really hope that continues to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great decision, and for all the reasons I just stated. So I'm on board with that. One more topic, real quick.
Yeah,
Coleman Domingo is playing the Cowardly Lion in Wicked for Good, and I particularly find this interesting because I and I mean 2 nights ago, probably the day before this was announced, for the first time watched Sing Sing, which is a movie that he starred in last year or the year before. That got some Oscar nominations, and
he was nominated. Yeah,
and now I have to say I think it's a crime that he didn't win, because I know you haven't seen it. I'm gonna recommend this to you soon. It was phenomenal. I knew it was gonna be good, but I didn't realize how much I was going to love this movie, and his performance specifically just like truly touched me. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, now I am now a big fan of his now that I've seen him in one movie, and I want to see him in anything I can.
I've seen him in a few other things. He's been on a heck of a streak, and we've got him coming up in The Running Man well.
Yes.
This holiday season, and I've heard some early buzz on that, and I'm hearing it's looking really good. So I'm hoping that that's the case. But yes, he's the host of the game show.
Yeah.
So it should be pretty cool. And just to be clear, you're going to assign Sing Sing homework to me, but not today.
Well, I didn't say it wasn't going to be today. Have you been assigned homework yet?
Sometime in the future is what you said.
Well, right. And an hour would be the future, and next week would be the future, and the week after that. So, got to keep you on your toes.
All right, kid. Whatever. Should we jump into our main topic?
Dude, let's freaking do it. I'm ready.
Okay. Pirates of the Caribbean, a 5-film franchise. They're talking right now about
3 films. I'm only aware of 3.
What?
There's only 3 Pirates movies. It ended after World's End, right?
it did not end afterwards. And you're being a smartass. It did not. Potentially, unfortunately, it continued. The fourth one had Jason, and the fifth one had Jason and Freddy both. So it was action packed, really good. Lots of good kills.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
No, no problem. It's currently a 5-film franchise. The sixth film has been announced. There's been a lot of casting news, some starts and false starts, and hopefully we learn more. There's a lot of people that really want to see Mr. Johnny Depp come back and get another stab at Captain Jack Sparrow. But personally, I don't know that it's going to work unless it also includes Orlando and Kira. I think that triad is what really makes this come together, but that's just my opinion. Do you think we should? We talked about ranking these, but it's kind of a weird ranking because you can rank them in one sentence from our perspective anyway, from our collective perspective, right?
Yeah.
Unless you changed your mind.
So generally, what we do is we have competing rankings, right? But we very quickly realized when setting this one up that we had the same exact ranking. It's not exactly controversial. So this is the definitive Pirates of the Caribbean ranking. I don't think there's really much room for shifting around. I mean, I do believe, as we'll get into it, that there's one or two that could be moved around. But for the most part, this is pretty set in stone. I think this is pretty commonly regarded as the accurate ranking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's only one potential flip-flop. And it's right at the top.
Yep.
But other than that, it more or less and just to cut to it, our rankings are chronological.
Yeah.
And so we really think that unfortunately the series peaks with its first film, and goes downhill from there. But 2 and 3 are solid, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of the films and what we like about them and what we don't like about them.
Yeah. I think in this case we can just go chronological then, since there's no secrecy behind the ranking. It's out there in the open now.
Let's just do that. Let's start with the first film, Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. Yeah. The film that brought the franchise to life. For those of you who don't know, and I think everybody likely does, this is a film based on a theme park ride at Disneyland in California originally. This film came out in 2003. It was not the first ride adaptation that they'd done, but very definitely the best that they ever did. And it subsequently spawned 4 additional sequels and a few remodels of the ride itself over the years. So 2003 brings us Curse of the Black Pearl. Big stars in this: Johnny Depp as a new character we'd never heard of, Captain Jack Sparrow. We had Jeffrey Rush, we have Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, Jonathan Pryce. Those are kind of the names that pop in there. I think Jack Davenport is pretty well known in England, a little less so here, except for his roles in Pirates. But what are your high level thoughts on this film?
Well, right off the bat, I love the name. Curse of the Black Pearl is just super intriguing. I think right away they nailed it there. I think this first movie literally captures lightning in a bottle. And there are several reasons we can point to, several factors of what make this movie so great. But right off the bat, they just made like my generation's perfect swashbuckling action and adventure film. It's the Indiana Jones of my lifetime. And I think they just did it phenomenally. I think one of, if not the biggest reason, is Johnny Depp's performance as Jack Sparrow.
100%.
It just immediately brings you in right away. It doesn't open on him, but we have his introduction where he's coming in, he's standing on the mast, the incredible music plays. You have the sun behind him, the wind blowing through his hair, and it pans out, and you realize that his boat is underwater, actively sinking. It's not large at all. It's basically just a buoy or a little dinghy with a mast, and it's capsizing. And he just steps off, lets it sink, and starts wooing everybody, like tricking everybody with all his weird antics. And right off the bat, it sets the stage for who Jack Sparrow is. he has this dramatic element to him, but at this point in his life, he's not worth much. And we kind of get into more of that as we go on. But his performance is one of a kind, truly.
Yeah, I think it's career defining in a lot of ways. I think that prior to this, probably the most career defining performance that he had was likely Edward Scissorhands. And, but he certainly was known for taking on parts in a very big way, just going in it all the way, whether it was Ed Wood or, as I said, Edward Scissorhands. I think that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka came after, but this was something that he was known for. It came before?
Yeah. No, I think it came after, but yeah. He does this thing for sure.
This is something that he's known for, but I think that never was it more successful and more beloved than in Captain Jack Sparrow, who you would think, watching this film, had been part of this franchise, and that the ride itself was based on this in some way, or that he was one of the famous pirates that he from time to time comes up against in subsequent films like Blackbeard and things like that, right? But no, brand new character and really fascinating in terms of how well he brings this to life.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think you nailed it. You'd feel that the franchise was founded around him, when in reality it was founded around the ride, and they wrote him this way. And I'm sure a lot of it came when Johnny Depp stepped on set and started acting the way he did. So I think I truly think that it's maybe the most magical part of the movies. And had it not been done that way, had Johnny Depp gone another way or not been in the movie, I don't think it would have worked the same. Not even close.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't have. And I think that as the series goes on and they start to give us more stories about other people that aren't Will and Elizabeth, as it doesn't work. So let's talk briefly about that. We first meet Will and Elizabeth in the opening sequence as children. The ghost stories sequence is really great. I think it fully captures the eerie mystery that the beginning of the ride brings you, where you're just like, oh, what's going on? Like I'm coming through the mist. What's happening? We're introduced to the idea of that pirates exist, and we've got these two kids that know each other. We're set up for a very West Side Story-esque connection. A very a classic tale of class keeping two lovebirds away from each other.
Yeah,
and I think that it perfectly sets things up, but You've got Orlando Bloom as Will Turner coming off of the Lord of the Rings films. Yeah. You've got him where he just sort of broke onto the scene in some of the biggest films that we've seen at this point. I can't remember exactly where 2003 where it landed in there, but it was definitely after the first one. Probably after the second too.
I think after the second.
You've got Keira Knightley, who is just like bursting onto the scene and is at her absolute best in this film. The two of them have such amazing chemistry that you just can't help but be in love with both of them and really want them to succeed. You want to get to know more of them. And so I think that when we go back to Johnny Depp, that's what really works, is that they have Johnny Depp is lightning in a bottle, but then you've got this perfect chemistry between Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom that you just so rarely find in films.
Right. They have the kind of chemistry that makes you feel like they had to have been together in real life. Like, truly, they feel meant for each other in these movies. And I think you said it, like, they're the perfect trio. And as we get further into this list, we can kind of talk about why I think the movies start to fail later on when our trio's broken up. We'll touch on that. But they all balance out really well. And they all have just top tier charisma, and I think the story, like you said, the very West Side Story kind of story between Will and Elizabeth, and them being, having this barrier between them, but then him ultimately going to rescue her. We'll talk about the actual plot a little bit here in a minute.
Yeah,
I just think it's expertly written. I think the script for this movie is so tight, and it makes you fall in love with these characters in such an incredible way, but a lot of that does come down to just these phenomenal performances. I think for a lot of them, it's probably their best performance in anything. At least maybe their most memorable.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, this is a star vehicle for Knightley. She really hadn't had a star vehicle yet, and I don't think I've ever liked her as much since. I think she's just absolutely perfect. I mean, I don't dislike her, but I think that like she's 100% at her best right here. I think that so is Orlando Bloom. Honestly, I think he's 100% at his best.
Yeah,
and it could very well be Johnny Depp's best work. As well.
We'll jump into some favorite moments here in just a second, but real quick, I have to touch on the score for this movie. It is obviously extremely iconic. Originally written by or composed by Klaus Badelt with the help of Hans Zimmer, and then Hans Zimmer ended up taking over for the next two movies. I don't know the full story between why there was shuffling around, and I know there's some like a little bit of drama as to why Hans Zimmer isn't credited for the first and whatever. Regardless, the score for these movies are incredible. I, to this day, listen to them at least on a weekly basis.
Really? A weekly basis? That's impressive.
Yeah, I really enjoy them, and I especially as we get going even further. But it really is important for movies like this. I mean, I talked about Indiana Jones with John Williams' score. Part of what makes an adventure movie is a score that you can't get out of your head, a score that's getting you excited, that you're humming the whole day, that as it starts to swell, you get goosebumps. It's really important, and this movie delivered that. Maybe better than 99% of other movies. This is a top tier Hans Zimmer score, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that it rivals a lot of the greats of all time. You mentioned Indiana Jones by the Indiana Jones score by John Williams. This is in the conversation of like top 10 best and most memorable like sort of action movie scores, 100%. Even to the point where as the film ends, you're just like, you're waiting for the score to kick back in. You can like sense it for 3 or 4 seconds. They hold as Johnny Depp says his line, and then the score kicks in and you're just like, oh yeah. Yeah. It feels so good. The score feels, the score is visceral. It feels like seawater. It feels like like it hits you in a way that you sense everything around you that they are experiencing. It's an amazing score. It's could be my favorite Zimmer score.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Like you said this score feels like water. Like to me, this score feels like you just grabbed a rope, cut the line, and then flew up into the air onto the mast. Like it just feels like you're in the adventure, which is incredible. I absolutely love it. Let's touch on some of our favorite parts of this movie specifically, like favorite scenes or lines or anything like that. Do you want to start, or do you want me to?
I mean, we've touched on a few. I guess my favorite sequence and combination of lines is starting from the point where Norrington tells him that he's the worst pirate he's ever seen.
Yeah, you've got to be the worst pirate I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then
I've ever heard of.
Yeah, but you have heard of me.
Yeah.
Which is a great combination of lines. But then we bookend that 15-20 minutes later, when he's escaping and he's been 3 steps ahead of the Royal Navy this whole time, and Norrington's right hand guy looks at him and just he's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen. It's perfect. Yeah. It's a perfect combination. Also, that whole sequence in terms of his escape from Norrington and his men in the beginning, the way he escapes and then ultimately gets captured. But where he escapes from the pier area and then back to when he escapes from the port altogether, the quality and creativeness of those action sequences is really unparalleled. It's and that's one of the great things about this film, and I think also the next particularly. They're so inventive in terms of how they're utilizing the environment, how they're utilizing a combination of Jack 100%. Being sly and Jack being stupid at the same time, and somehow the combination of that works for him in a way that you're just like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's almost like, is he an idiot or is he actually the smartest guy in the room? Kind of a thing.
Because the truth is he's both the worst and the best pirate at the same time.
Exactly.
Both lines are accurate.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. I love that scene, or that combination of scenes. That's probably in like my top 3 moments for sure. One of my favorite lines and scenes in the whole movie is when Elizabeth is on the boat with Barbosa. She's eating with him. She thinks that maybe he poisoned her. He didn't. He's explaining to her the curse of the gold, and she's not really buying it. And she ends up running out onto the deck, and she, for the first time, sees the whole crew as skeletons, right? The curse is on them. She sees it with her own eyes, something supernatural. She's knocking at all of them. They're pushing her around. They're throwing her up in the air. It's this whole thing. And then we see Barbosa still in the shadows, still human form, and he says to her, "You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner." And then he steps into the moonlight and he turns into the skeleton. He says, "You're in one."
Yeah.
And then the score hits hard again. She screams and then it cuts away. And every time that scene happens, I get goosebumps. I'm like, this is a great example of a really good line, but the delivery of it being so much better than just what's written. He delivers his lines in such a way it's just so fun. It's fun the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Rush is on a heater.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he is on one the whole time. There's not a moment where he's not just chewing up the scenery. But he does so in a way where he bounces back between subtle reactions to things that are somehow huge while still being subtle. And I don't know how he pulls that off. But some of the little like asides and faces he makes and are great. And I love that whole combination of him acting like he's uneducated, and then he repeats the line back about
I'm disinclined to acquiesce to your request.
Yeah. It means no.
Yeah, it means no. It's so good.
It's a great performance.
Is it crazy to say
Rush.
that he's almost stealing the spotlight from the rest of our main cast? I mean, these are all great performances, but in a way, like, you can't look away when he's on screen.
He definitely steals some scenes. There's no doubt about it. And I think that the series has a number of individuals, especially villains, that have those moments where they're stealing the scenes, and that's great. That's important to have. Especially since in a lot of ways, as much as I like the chemistry between Will and Elizabeth, Will's character is not as three-dimensional as Barbosa. He's not as three-dimensional as Davy Jones that we'll meet in the second film. He's not as three-dimensional for sure as Captain Jack Sparrow. Potentially neither is Elizabeth Swann. But when we meet her, that's sort of the point. That's sort of who she is. And she's supposed to be becoming more well-rounded as the adventure continues.
Yeah, she has a great arc. Touching on Will, though, I will say this.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about the first movie is, obviously it's the way it's written, but the way that the truth kind of floats around Will. So we have, right off the bat, we know that he was taken from the shipwreck, right? There's the potential that he was a pirate because he has the medallion. She takes it from him. Later on in the movie, Elizabeth is taken by the pirates, and she says her name is Turner because she just chooses that name because Will's on her mind, but she doesn't want to give her name. It sets the whole plot forward because we realize that this name Turner is extremely important to them for the simple fact that they need Turner's blood. And we get further into why Bill Turner's not around in the next movie. But then meanwhile, we have, and a lot of this comes from their performances. Like as they react, when she says Miss Turner, they're like, Miss Turner, okay, Then Will tries to break Jack out of prison. Jack isn't interested in helping Will until he mentions that his name is Will Turner. And Jack says, I assume short for William Turner, named after your father, probably. And he's like, yes. And then Jack agrees to help him. And there's this, it's subtle enough where it's not just screaming at you. And you might not even realize fully what's going on if you're not paying attention, but it's there. And it's so interesting. Like, we realize that there's something much deeper to Will and his backstory than they're letting on. Even like they don't even fully reveal all of it in this movie, which is really interesting.
No.
And so,
but they reveal enough to make this work and make it work really well.
They just give the intrigue. They do it really well. I think it's kind of a masterclass in world building without just like dumping exposition on you. It's really good. It was,
Yeah, they're letting you. They're giving you as an audience member credit for your intelligence and your willingness to stick around and let the story unfold rather than spoon feeding you.
yeah.
And they do a great job with it. I agree.
Yeah. We should move on to the second one, so I'll just touch on two more things real quick that I like about this movie quickly. Obviously, the extremely iconic, "But why is the rum gone?" line. Super iconic. And that kind of goes into one of the other things I loved. I actually never even really thought about this until I just watched the movie yesterday. But earlier in the movie, Jack's in prison. The other inmates next to him are telling him stories about the Black Pearl. Like, they leave no survivors. Like, nobody ever lives to tell the story or something like that. And then Jack says to them, he's like, then where'd all the stories come from? You know?
Yeah.
But then later in the movie, we hear all these legends behind Jack Sparrow and how he got off this island, right? How he harnessed sea turtles with the hair from his back and all this stuff. And obviously it turns out to be complete BS.
Sea turtles.
And I think it's hilarious that Jack, being, a master of BS, he's got this legend around him that's not at all true. He has the intelligence to ask them that really simple question as they're speaking to these legends of this ship and the pirates. And he's like, well, have you actually really thought about this? Because it sounds like BS to me, knowing clearly what BS is. I think I think it's a fun little parallel there.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Jack is that so much of his legend is hearsay, is made up. It's all myth.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, so much of what is really going on with Jack is so fantastic, but that's not what he's talking about. For example, the compass. The compass is incredible. It's very cool. And this compass that doesn't work, and to the naked eye, to the uninitiated, it's just a broken compass. But in reality, it's telling Jack everything he needs to know. But is he talking about that? No. That alone could have created this massive legend about Captain Jack Sparrow. He's keeping this private. On one hand, he's just this open buffoon, but underneath the surface, there's so much more going on that they slowly reveal throughout that is really cool. And I think that that's one of the things that works. And I think that potentially that's one of the things that works less as the series goes on.
Definitely agree.
Lastly,
I really love the ending to this movie. I love the final duel between Jack and Barbossa and how Jack ultimately gets stabbed, backs into the moonlight, and it's revealed that for this fight, he grabbed a piece of the curse. He took it with him, knowing that this was his only chance to win. And then when ultimately he shoots Barbossa and Barbossa realizes that they ended the curse right then, and blood starts to pour from his chest. It's really great acting. He just there's just a far off look in his eyes, and all he says is, "I feel," and then he falls and he dies. And it's this incredible moment where he's at peace with his death, because for the first time he feels in however long it's been, because that's been a big part of his character. They haven't been able to feel, taste. They're always hungry. They can never eat. They can never be satisfied. So in this moment, I think it's a really beautiful ending for the character in this movie with that line, "I feel," right before he dies.
It's a great example of how not to overwrite.
Right.
And it's perfect. I mean, the idea that he sort of dies mid-sentence, but it doesn't matter because the sentence really ends there.
Yeah.
That's all we need. That's all he's really trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, I want to go back to the idea that all of these, that fight scene, he and Will's sword fight, everything with his escape and different, the action sequences are incredibly innovative and creative in this film.
Yeah.
And they all feel special. As you go throughout the film, they all feel special.
Yeah, I agree. So this is my favorite and your favorite.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a perfect action movie. I could throw this on at any time, fully pay attention, have it on in the background just for vibes as I'm getting stuff done. I love this movie truly, deeply. And it is a little downhill from here, only downhill from here. But that's not to say that there aren't still good movies in this series. So,
well, I don't know. I mean, for me, Dead Man's Chest is at times my favorite. So I put it in the number 2 slot. We're going to talk about Dead Man's Chest now, but there have been moments when it's been one. And I think it's been one for you too, right?
It has.
There's times. I mean, everybody that listens to this podcast knows how you feel about Davy Jones.
Yeah, I love Davy Jones. And yeah, I'll just say it. For the longest time, Dead Man's Chest was my favorite. In fact, for the longest time, I had At World's End above the first one as well. And just as I watch, they shift around, and I just am currently on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I would say easily the biggest flip flop here is 1 and 2. Curse of the Black Pearl and Dead Man's Chest could be pretty interchangeable. I think they're both phenomenal.
I agree. And the opening for Dead Man's Chest was record breaking. I don't exactly remember what that record was, but it was a record breaking opening. People. I remember waiting in line with your aunt and a few others, a bunch of friends, my sister, and we waited in line for a really long time, so long in fact that somebody went to go get food and brought it back, and we ate dinner in line because it was you had to get there so early to get a decent seat before anybody was doing assigned seats in theaters. It was pretty cool, and to be in a completely packed house to see Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of romanticize the idea of that. I think that's just so fun, and I kind of wish that sometimes that feeling still existed. The last time I remember waiting in line for a movie was, I think, Infinity War. Just waiting in a line for like 45 minutes, and that's just unheard of now, especially post-COVID. Yeah. But let's talk about this movie. I think, for me, right off the bat, the first thing we have to mention are the visuals in this movie. Mm-hmm. I think it takes a pretty drastic step up. The first movie looks phenomenal. It really does. It holds up great. But the second movie for me is on another level when it comes to Davy Jones, his crew, the Kraken, and even just the overall aesthetic. It's a very dark and grungy and dirty feeling, but in a way it's cozy, which is kind of strange. I think the aesthetic
cozy
is really fun, but the CGI on these characters holds up today. Like, truly, today it holds up better than some stuff that's coming out currently.
And, the Curse of the Black Pearl, it holds up decently. But you can see a little bit of the threads from time to time.
Yeah.
Not so much with Dead Man's Chest. It's pretty great, and especially Davy Jones.
It's near
Davy
flawless.
Jones looks like you can reach out and touch him. It looks so much more organic than typical CGI. It's really great.
Which, by the way, it's not even an example of blending practical and CG. No. Like, he's full CG. Obviously, the actor's standing there with dots on his face. But it's a fully CG character, and it looks phenomenal. Like, I truly feel that this was kind of when our visual effects peaked. Like, when they were still pioneering the way of making things look the best they could. And I think post maybe the next movie, they kind of just flatlined, or maybe even started to decrease as they started to cut corners a little bit here and there. But I truly can point to this movie as like maybe the period of the greatest CGI that we've had. Like, at least obvious CGI. So I absolutely love that.
That's an interesting point. And I agree. It holds up really, really well.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's maybe the most immediately noticeable thing about this movie is I don't think anybody would believe you. Like, when I showed my brother this movie recently, I told him when it came out, and he couldn't believe it. He's like, "Really? That it's this old? It looks so good."
He hadn't seen it, huh?
No, he hadn't seen it. Or I think he had seen it like as a kid, but he had never like really sat down and watched it, if that makes sense. So it was fun to get to do that with him. But
that's cool.
Story-wise, we have a natural progression. Obviously, we pick up right away from where we left off. The last one ended with Will helping set Jack free because he was sentenced to be hanged. And so this next movie picks up immediately with Will and Elizabeth both being arrested for conspiring to free Jack Sparrow.
At their wedding.
Wedding.
It's a pretty dramatic opening.
It is.
And works on a lot of levels. You really feel the pain and the tension. it does feel a bit like, wait, what's going on? I don't quite understand at times, and I remember that I still find it initially a tiny bit jarring.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a gap that they never really explain. You know, you say it picks up right when it leaves off. I don't imagine that they rescue the Black Pearl, they come to shore, and they immediately plan a wedding for next weekend.
Right. No,
there's got to be
like
some
at
period
least a
of
month.
Yeah, there's got to be some period of time there. So why is it taking that long for them to be arrested? I get over it pretty quick, to be honest. But every time I watch it, I go, wait, what? How did we get here? Why is this happening now?
I think the explanation of it is that Beckett is now the one in power. He's the one overseeing everything now. So Norrington is no longer, the representation of the British, right?
Of the crown?
Yeah, exactly. He is now actually basically disowned by his government, right? And the new big bad has stepped in his place, and he's much worse, basically, because Norrington gave them a head start at the end of the last movie. He essentially betrayed his duty, right?
Yeah.
And so now I think that's kind of the reasoning, like, new character just now arrived. That's why all this is happening. I agree. I don't think it's necessarily the best or the tightest, but I'm never getting too hung up on it.
Yeah. Well, something that I think is pretty tight and that works really well, it starts in the first, and then it continues throughout the second film, is the chemistry, the three-way chemistry that we get out of Jack, Will, and Elizabeth. You mentioned the "Where's the rum?" or "Why is the rum gone?" sequence on the island. There's great chemistry between Jack and Elizabeth on that island. It's false chemistry. She's putting it on, but she's playing the part. She's becoming Jack. Like, she understands something in that moment that Will doesn't understand.
Yeah,
like
she's becoming
how
a
to play
pirate.
the part. Yeah, how to play the part, how to get away with something, how to con somebody. We continue to see that happen in the second, and we continue to see her take advantage of Jack in ways to try and make sure that she can manipulate the situation in her and Will's favor. But Keira Knightley and Johnny Depp have great chemistry together as well, and it works. Obviously, Johnny and Orlando have good chemistry in that sort of like buddy film kind of way that makes it really interesting. So all three of them together and this love triangle of sorts is something that really works well in the second.
Yeah, I mean, they're the perfect trio. And they all have different characteristics that play well off each other. I think, like you said, due to her character, like, Will has a level of nobility that she kind of abandons rather quickly in these movies. She becomes much more pirate-like than Will does, in a sense.
She's smarter than Will, too.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets it so much faster than Will does.
She
Most
realizes
of Will's
in order to
plans
win,
don't
she has
really
to play,
work out.
Yeah, she has to play the game. She has to manipulate, and she uses the fact that she's an attractive woman against these other pirates constantly, and it really works. I think the love triangle, if you will, I think the main reason it works comes down to the way that this movie is written, and in fact the way that this whole trilogy is written, where most of these characters, like these three characters, are rarely ever all three together. Rarely. Like maybe a total of like 10 minutes, 15 minutes across the whole trilogy. It's always two of them at a time, if not one and one.
Yeah.
And it also works because Will and Elizabeth spend more of these movies apart than they do together. And it really builds the will they, won't they tension. It builds a sense of longing and yearning for them to finally be together. But then she's spending so much time with Jack and it's working. Like, there's enough chemistry there where you're like, do I want this? And it's expertly done in a way that doesn't feel entirely obvious where you want it to end up. And that's something that I really appreciate about the way that this trio is written.
Yeah. And listen, let's go back to this idea of unique and creative action sequences. I think The Dead Man's Chest continues in that tradition. They aren't just playing the hits from the first film. We're getting more interesting and unique action sequences, probably personified best by the sequence on the giant wheel.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's incredible how cool that is. But there are definitely others throughout the film. But I think that one really stands out to me. And I'm glad to see that, because we didn't need the same thing. We needed them to show us as filmmakers that they could put our favorite characters in even more interesting and creative situations, because it's only so interesting to see two people smack their swords against each other.
Yeah.
But
100%.
having to do it while managing interesting environments makes it that much cooler.
100%. I think you nailed it. I think the Wheel of Fortune scene is maybe the one you think of most. But these movies also do something around these set pieces that I think are so interesting, and they always give you a point of focus, right? The MacGuffin, if you will. There's always something that they're all fighting for that comes into play during the fights. And in this example, they are all half of them are after the key, half of them are after the chest, and the other half, or another party altogether, is after the heart. That's actually not even in the chest anymore. And so all these different parties are fighting for their own motivations for different parts or different pieces of this puzzle, and very few of them actually know fully what's going on. And so there's so many pieces in the air that by the time everything lands, you're not even sure who ended up with what and who actually won. And that's what I think is so expertly done about this scene particularly, is we have all of that happening, but then we also have the distraction of the fact that they are all fighting on top of a giant wheel, or climbing up these rocks and jumping down, falling into graves, running along the beach, whatever it may be. I think it's a perfect action sequence for all of those reasons.
Yeah, and you mentioned MacGuffins. The 99% of the time, MacGuffins fall short, and you find yourself going, "What was the point, really?"
Right.
This is a great example of a MacGuffin that works.
Yeah.
That you understand as an audience member the significance. They do a good job of world building to the point where you really know why this matters, and that really just doesn't happen that often.
No, I 100% agree. Let's jump into some of our favorite moments from this one. And I promise those of you listening, by the time we get to the fourth and fifth, we're not going to talk about those ones for nearly as long.
It should go a lot faster after this.
We're talking about some of our favorite movies, period, right now. So as we move on, it'll go much quicker. But again, being the guy who always brings up the score, I think Davy Jones's score and the Kraken score are both top tier, especially as villain themes. Davy Jones feels rather tragic and melancholy, and we don't even fully know why it is that way, but it has an epic, grand nature to it as well. And then the Kraken theme is just this never-ending, ever-daunting, non-stop set of notes that just feels like it's literally hunting you down and at any moment going to reach out and fully swallow you. I think Hans Zimmer is a master of his art. Clearly, I mean, that's not a hot take at all, but I think it really shines through. He obviously expanded upon, if we give him no credit for the first one, let's just say we don't. He expanded upon that, but then created entirely new themes as well that I think are nearly as good and fit these characters so well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Kraken one. I think in some ways it's this like full orchestration that is somehow still inspired by Jaws.
Yeah,
it gives you 100%. That a really similar sense, but but still has this this feeling of antiquity that you don't get in Jaws, because Jaws is a contemporary story.
I think it might even play the two notes at the beginning of it, like dum. Like, I'm pretty sure that's in the Kraken theme.
So directly inspired by Jaws.
I think so. I think you nailed it right there. I never actually thought about that before, but I agree with you.
So we talked about how much we love Davy Jones. We talked about the great MacGuffins. It's another really tight script. For me, I think Bill Nye has some fantastic lines. He is so good, and he's been on. By the time this film comes out, he's been on such a hot streak of really great characters in both horror action and comedy, like across the board. He's just winning every time he's on stage or on the screen. At this point, he's when this film comes out, he's like one of my favorite actors working. Like if he's in the film, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. There's just no way around it. It's just going to be good. So I love him, but I really also like the introduction of Tom Hollander as Beckett, and I think that he brings a totally different type of villain. With Norrington, there was a nobility. He was just doing his job.
Yeah.
He was.
It was a little personal, but.
Well, but he didn't put. He rarely put the personal in front of his duty.
Right.
In fact, when he does, it's to let Elizabeth go. It's to let things ride out. But he's very willing to hide his feelings. He's got the stiff upper lip. I love that line when he tells Will in the first one not to make the mistake of assuming that he's the only one that loved Elizabeth. It's one of the most important lines in the whole series that lets you truly understand that there's more going on with a lot of these characters than not. I'm going back to the first. I realize I say that only because there's a duty. He's duty bound. That's what's driving him as a villain. But the ante is upped dramatically with Beckett because he's not doing his duty. He's in it for wealth. He's in it for fame. He's in it for notoriety. He's not in it for duty.
He revels in it.
And yes, I was going to say, I think, that to see a pirate hung gives him some kind of sick pleasure. He is every bit as brutal and violent and angry and villainous as the pirates themselves are, or in this case, maybe more so.
Yeah.
And it's all packaged in this little Napoleonic body that you just kind of want to, you just want him to go down. So badly.
Yeah. So badly.
Lord Farquaad, in a sense,
No, I'm with you there. I think you nailed it. I 100% agree with you there. You were speaking about some good lines from Davy Jones. I think maybe the most iconic in the movie for me is when he says to the sailor. It's one of the first lines we hear, maybe the first line we hear Davy Jones say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really his catchphrase, right?
Yeah, he's like, "Do you fear death?"
The way he does that is
the
so
way
good.
he says it, the way his lips like pop and his little tentacles, pop out all over the place. I love that so much. I just can't get over the way he looks. I mean, he looks so good. Another line I love, two of them actually, from Johnny Depp. One of them being "Hide the rum" when Elizabeth joins the crew again. I think that's obviously super fun. All the lines around rum are quite a blast in these movies. We got a good one coming in the next one as well. Or maybe it's this one. He says, "Why is the rum always gone?"
Yeah.
And then the end of the movie as the beast, the Kraken, is upon Jack Sparrow. He has no way to escape. And he has this moment where he accepts his fate. He knows he's going down. So he draws his sword and he says, "Hello, beastie," as he charges into the mouth of the Kraken. I think is also pretty freaking cool.
Anything not work for you in this film?
Anything not work?
What do you see as what are your notes?
I think this one gets a little more convoluted than the first. And I think that is the main reason why I, at the moment, have it lower. I think it's a little harder to follow. There's more moving parts. I think part of what makes the first one so good is it's just so tight. It's so perfect. Everything fits perfectly. You're never really lost. And if you are, it's because they want you to be for now,
Yeah.
I think the second one suffers a little bit in that area where it has a little more going on. And as a fan of the franchise, I'm for it. Now that I've seen the movie a few times, these are things that I love about the movie. But I think generally speaking and objectively, that could be a little bit of an issue for this movie.
Fair. For me, it starts to get a little character bloat and also like performance bloat, and I'm going to call out two actors who I typically really like, but I don't know that they necessarily delivered the quality performance that I wanted, or I don't know if it just was lost in the direction or the edit or whatever, but Stellan Skarsgård as Bootstrap, and also Naomi Harris. I think that both of them don't quite land as well as they could have for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone so far as in, I think, a past episode where I suggested that Naomi Harris was, was the wrong casting. But
Yeah.
but anyway, I also think that Stellan Skarsgård, who I typically absolutely love, like I don't know that he's the right actor for this part either. He feels misused. He feels misused. And so whenever you have a franchise like this, and you start, we started in the first one with Jack, Will, Elizabeth, Barbosa, Norrington, and her dad. Plus, you've got a couple other, the comic relief in the pirates, a few of the pirates that come back. So you've got like 7-8 characters that have to move from the first movie to the second movie. But then you layer in 5 or 6 more characters on top of that we have to care about, and they have to get their screen time, and they have to be unique and interesting, and the performances have to, deliver. I think as the franchise continues on, more and more people are like, well, how do I compete with Johnny's performance here?
Right.
And so you start to get that. And I feel that a little bit in Naomi Harris. I feel that a little bit in Stellan Skarsgård. Actors who I typically really like. I just think maybe these weren't the right parts for them. And they're where I start to feel like this one slips a little below the first one because it's just a little bloated in terms of characters and performances.
Yeah, that's completely
fair.
But
it gets worse.
It gets worse
as the series goes on.
It gets much worse, and let's touch on that in just a moment. But lastly, I'll speak to my last favorite scene from this movie. Okay. The movie ends, or the movie's ending. Jack has just died. He's been killed by the Kraken, and everybody, they go to Calypso. They go to where she is because they're gonna all go there mourn. They're gonna give her the stuff, and I really love this moment where she asks, would they do anything to save him? And they're like, yeah, and they all basically agree that they're willing to go to the world's end to save Jack or to bring Jack back. And she has this great line where she basically says, well, you're going to need a captain. And you hear the steps happening. They're nice and loud. You see Boots walk down the stairs. It pans up. It reveals Barbossa's face. He takes a bite of an apple, which in and of itself is cool because he's different now. He tastes the apple.
He loves his apples.
And he says, so what's become of my ship? And then the score just goes absolutely nuts as the credits roll. Mm-hmm. And for me, I literally have goosebumps talking about it because I love this moment so much. Again, I mentioned that I love his performance.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of all these things. The score, the performance, the fact that he's back, the line, the cliffhanger going into the next movie. All of these things kind of crescendo perfectly for me in a way that makes me immediately want to turn on the next movie. And I think that that's not entirely common in movies. I can think of a few examples of movies that make me feel that way at the last second, and this is one of them.
Yeah, it does have a really... I mean, in so many ways, both of these films end perfectly. The first one's not really a cliffhanger, but it does make you want more.
Right.
And it ends perfectly. The second one, they give you a similar sensation but they also include the cliffhanger, and it works really well.
Yeah.
So let's then go into the film that followed it.
Yeah.
And did we get off the cliff or not? Did we fall? Were we rescued? What happened in At World's End? If you gave the first one a 5, and the second film, I don't know, 4 maybe?
I give the second one a 4.5.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be at a 4 on number 2. Where do you rate At World's End?
I'll be honest, this one's all over the place for me. It really ultimately comes down to the mood that I'm in. Am I in my critical mood, or am I just in my, surrender and enjoy myself mood? And so I don't know. For me, I think most commonly each of these goes down half a step of these first 3 movies. And that's because I know objectively the third one is the worst. Objectively, the worst of the 3. That is objectively true. And sometimes when I watch it, it feels like it drags. It feels overbloated. I feel these things. But there are other, there are such highs in this movie for me. There are moments and so many scenes and characters that make me feel so strongly that I really still do love this movie. I think it could have been trimmed and been much better. But I don't know. I think I would have this one at an 8, even though It could go lower, but for me, it still means a lot to me. I still enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah. And for those of you who are struggling to keep up with Braden's math, 8 is the same as a 4.
Yeah, sorry. My bad. Yes.
I give it a 3.
For those of you struggling to keep up with my math, take some basic math lessons.
You need to tell people you're multiplying your stars by 2.
I think they can figure it out.
So I give it a 3. There are a lot of things that I really like about this. There's some fun sequences. There's some great lines. It feels, to use a word you used earlier, cozy, in the sense that I get to spend some time with some characters that I like. But you know right away that some of this is not going to be anywhere near as good, and that they're running out of ideas. In one of the early scenes where Elizabeth has to remove all of her weapons, and we get the really tired trope of, this tiny little person having a million different weapons on them and having to pull them all out. And by the way, this is not the last time that people have overworked this stupid trope. But as soon as that happened, I thought, uh-oh. They've run out of ideas. They're not. I'm not seeing that same originality and creativity that I saw in the first 2. If I'm going to see this silly scene where she's got to pull the 15-foot spear out of her pocket, and
the shotgun out of her butt.
Yeah, and it's the 14th, 15th weapon that she's got. Like, this is a scene that should be saved for Zucker Brothers films like Airplane or The Naked Gun or, things like this. This is not something that we should be seeing in the Pirates film. And to me, it's a bit, it's a bit symptomatic of the rest of what we see throughout the film.
I think an example for me in this movie of where I just feel like we're really missing the mark is when we are actually in Davy Jones' locker with Jack, and there's a whole crew on the ship of Jacks. There's 15 Johnny Depps, one of them acting like a chicken, one of them trying to eat a peanut, and then there's all these little rocks that he's licking, and then it turns out they're crabs, and they transport the boat to the ocean. So I feel similarly about this scene where that's like a 10 to 15 minute sequence in the movie. And I'm just like, could we really not have done this better?
Yeah. I to me, it's like the opposite problem, but it's still a problem. And that is that they came up with something super original like they had in the first 2 films. It's just something super original that doesn't really work with the rest of the world that we're in. But I'd rather them at least take the chance than just like steal an old idea and repurpose it. But I hear you that it also does not really work there. And I think we have also some additional problems here with some of the performances. Again, I think as we get to performance bloat here, I think a few really good actors are brought in to, really pad out the overall world. We're starting to get into like Fast 5 territory here with the amount of characters we have to worry about.
Yeah.
We aren't quite at a place where Ludacris is in space, but we're getting there. And we're also, I think we're continuing to see actors shoot for the moon with their characters to try and not get overshadowed by Johnny Depp. A great example for me there is Chow Yun-fat and his character. He is an actor who's so often perfect in his subtlety and the simplicity and the quiet power that he brings, and he's a bit over the top in this one, and it's in a way that in ways that I don't know that I've ever seen him do, and it doesn't really work for me either.
Yeah, and there's plenty of examples of that in this movie. I also think it's Johnny Depp's most ridiculous performance of Jack Sparrow up until this point, pretty easily. I think he's almost becoming a caricature of Jack Sparrow. Not fully yet, but like you start to see it in this movie for me. As we have, the other thing this movie has, you were talking about, are we really doing the thing with all the different pulling 15 weapons out of, one body? They also do the devil and angel on each shoulder. And,
yeah.
And, it's just, I think in a lot of ways that it was clearly the peak of the trilogy's ambition. And it is an epic. And at that point, and for the longest time, maybe still the most expensive movie ever made. And granted, it made a stupid amount of money back. So it really, they shot for the moon on this one. And unfortunately, in plenty of areas, I think it was a miss. But there are lots of good things in this movie too.
Yeah, there are. But you're right. It feels at times, like I said, like a spoof of itself.
Yeah.
In Johnny's performance, but also in a lot of the characters that they add. Visually, though, so beautiful. Like the visuals, the costumes, the set, the ships, all the different ships from all the pirates from around the world. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
100%.
Which is why it's such a bummer that it is at times really kind of silly and unoriginal.
Yeah, it is. I'll talk about a few moments and obviously jump in. Things that I actually like about the movie. One of which being Elizabeth's arc. We kind of see the completion of her story in this movie where she started off as, governor's daughter, fairly helpless, and then who hates pirates, by the way. Mm-hmm. By the end of this movie, she is the pirate king. She is the king of the pirate council, which is a concept that they introduce in this movie. But I think it's a rather fun arc for her. Yeah. That by the end of this story, she's actually the one in charge.
Well, and I think it's the right arc because you said that she hated pirates. I always read that as false. I always read that as that's what she responded to openly, and she was told to. But in her heart, she was fascinated. She was obsessed with pirates. Not too unlike Will in a lot of ways. I mean, Jack accuses Will of thinking about pirates an awful lot for somebody who doesn't want to be one. Right. But anyway, yeah. So I see that as kind of a natural progression for her that works really well.
And I think you actually made a good point because you're right. At the end of the first movie, there is a scene where her dad says to her, like, are you sure? Like, he's a blacksmith, talking about her being with Will. And she says, no, he's a pirate. Yeah. He's a pirate. And then she kisses him. Yeah. Like, it's what she is falling in love with, So I do agree with you. I think that's a great part of this movie. Just a scene that I think really... I think the opening scene sets the tone for the movie they wanted to make and did make for plenty of it, but then it kind of went off the rails at other points. So the opening scene is all these different people, pirates and people associated with pirates, being hung. And it's really visceral because one of them being a kid. And they sing this song and they chant together, they stand in defiance, and they're hung anyways. Beckett takes a satisfaction in it when they start singing. This is the opening scene. It's very dark, very chilling, and I think had this movie stayed in that lane,
I agree,
throughout, I think it could have been right up there with the first one in my ranking. And so I think that's a little bit of a disappointment, but that opening scene sets the tone for the movie that I wish they had made.
I agree. They start so strong, and then they almost immediately start making a joke of it in ways that the first and the second didn't fail in. The first or second was obviously very funny, but it also maintained its seriousness while also being at times lighthearted. This ups the ante in terms of seriousness and then ups the ante in terms of absurdity and silliness to the point where now these paths are too diverged from each other to make it work at all.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the ending?
Okay. Well, right before I get there, I got to mention a scene that I think is pretty important to the build-up to the ending. Okay. And it's the scene on the boat during the fight. You talked about visuals. I mean, some of the best moments visually in this movie are the final fight when the two ships are interlocked in the whirlpool. Yeah. It's practically raining on them between the hurricane, the cannon fire. It's a downpour. And Will and Elizabeth are fighting side by side, and they decide in that moment they want to be married. They might not live to see tomorrow. They want to be married, and they ask Barbossa to marry them. It's kind of a funny scene, but it also is really cool, and the score is really swelling. They're fighting side by side with like this chemistry, like they've been fighting side by side forever. And then there's this amazing moment as Barbossa is saying all the things to marry them, right? There's this awesome moment where they're fighting, they're swinging, they turn and they clash swords with each other finally.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, just kiss, and they kiss. And
Yeah.
I'll say right there, in my opinion, best on-screen movie kiss ever.
Oh.
I cannot think of one that makes me feel more. It is perfectly shot. It slow-mos around them with people flying in the background, explosions happening, the downpour of rain. And you've basically been waiting for it for 3 movies now. They've just been making you wait. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, and really important to then that what happens next in the movie, the ending.
Well, I'm going to throw out Han and Leia in terms of but yeah, it's great, and you're right. It is one of the more original action sequences in the film. Because we do still get some original action sequences in this, mixed in with all of the tired tropes that they bring in, the cliches, etc. So now we have this ending where Will takes over is it the Dutchman? It's the Dutchman, right? And
because of Jack's decision, by the way, which is pretty key.
Yeah, right. But just I guess generally the idea now that this is ending, and because we don't necessarily need to talk about every single plot point here, but I guess my idea is my question is, as it ends and it as a series, as a conclusion to the series, Will's going off to run the Dutchman. How does that make you feel as an audience member? Do you feel like satisfied in terms of the series really feeling like it's coming to a good close?
Yeah, I both feel satisfied while feeling kind of the tragedy of the situation. I think I actually think it wraps it up perfectly. I think this movie ends on a note that makes you feel a little empty because it's not quite the happy ending you were hoping for. But it sends these characters off in different directions where at that point you can kind of just sit back and imagine what happened next. You can fill in the blanks. We've talked about this idea a lot of the audience member, filling in the blanks, sometimes being better than them giving you the answers or the follow-up. I think this is a great example. We have Will going off into the sunset with the tragedy of him only being able to see Elizabeth once every 10 years, right? We have her going off, having to live with this, in love with a man who she can't see, right? A pirate.
Yep.
And then we have Jack and Gibbs, they don't even have the Black Pearl at this point because Barbossa took it again. But they kind of got a one-up on him in another way with the map. But they kind of just have this moment where they cheers and say, "Pirate's life," and where are we off to next? On to the next adventure,
The continuation of a beautiful friendship.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like right there, it should have ended. I truly believe that. I think although the movie itself is the weakest, I think it's a really satisfying ending to the trilogy. And that's why I joke around that it really is only a trilogy, because it should have ended right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, in the interest of time, since we're well over an hour in our mini episode here, let's jump into Stranger Tides, the 4th film. I think really the failure of this particular film, it's not to say that it's not fun to watch, that there aren't some fun moments, but the failure in this film is for me twofold. First, it lacks the Will and Elizabeth chemistry. We don't have that. That's what we need to keep the bizarre Captain Jack Sparrow sort of in check as an audience member. They try and give that to us with the Reverend and the Mermaid. It doesn't work. I don't ever really care about them enough to have the same impact as what we saw with Will and Elizabeth. And then the second thing is, I think that this film pretty much completely fails to have anything original as it relates to the fight sequences. It just feels in so many ways like, let's take the one we had in Black Pearl and just up it a little bit. Let's take this one that we had in Dead Man's Chest and up it a little bit. And it doesn't ever really do anything super original, in my opinion. And therefore it falls flat. And that's really all I have to say on this one.
Yeah, I agree. There's no action set pieces that stand out. Like, I'm sitting here as you're saying that, trying to think of one, and I can't. It doesn't feel like it lives up to that in any way. And I'll agree with you also that I don't know that any single one of the trio that we've been talking about would work on their own. I think what makes them so powerful is the way they work off of each other, and that's really severely lacking in this movie. You feel that Jack Sparrow does not work as your main protagonist.
Yeah.
And it's not Johnny Depp's fault. It's not because of that. It's just because of the way that the character's written.
It's script.
And this is when we officially go off the deep end of Jack Sparrow not being this deep and intelligent character, and now he is fully a character of himself. He is just lucky. Like at this point, he's just lucky, and it's rather unfortunate. I will say, I don't hate this movie. Like I'm not going to groan when it's time to turn it on. Like you said, it's still fun, but it's nowhere near the level of the other three. And as we move on to this next one, which we can do right now, this one I don't watch. I don't like this movie at all.
I don't either.
And in this next one, man, if On Stranger Tides lost the plot, Dead Men Tell No Tales has no idea where it is. It is so bad. Like, just in no other way, Jack Sparrow's character, it's complete character assassination on Jack Sparrow. He, at this point, I think he's drunk like 99% of the movie. Like, and you could say he was drunk in all the other movies. You could say that. But like this time, he's just played as a drunk who is literally being thrown around, and he lands on his feet every single time. And it makes no sense. The plot armor is insane. They try to add in, give him a trio again. They give him the son of Will and Elizabeth, which is somewhat of an interesting idea, done horribly. And then a new character, I think her name's Teresa, but I'm not remembering who plays her. They kind of give her like stand-in Will and Elizabeth, or give him stand-in Will and Elizabeth, but it just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it's the same as with On Stranger Tides. The love triangle doesn't hold up at all, because it's not a triangle anymore. It's just a separate relationship. You know, and it doesn't really work.
And I'll also say just quickly as well, we do have the return of Will. We do have the return of Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if Elizabeth has a line in the movie. I don't think she does.
No,
Will does, and it's easily Orlando Bloom's worst portrayal of Will. It's he even just the way he's delivering lines is rather ridiculous, and it's just disappointing. Like, that's maybe the main draw of this movie versus the last one is the characters are coming back. The story's more interconnected because it's his kid. We're trying to break the curse that Will is under.
Yeah. And
it kind of cheapens. Ultimately, spoiler alert, they do it. They break the curse, but it then cheapens the ending of that original trilogy by giving us a very lackluster version of those characters and then a rather easy answer.
And the makeup itself isn't all that interesting either. I mean, he takes over as the captain of the Dutchman, previously being Davy Jones, who was just absolutely ruthless and just looked so incredible. And Will's version of being the captain of the Dutchman is just to have some
barnacles.
Some barnacles on a few barnacles on his face, and otherwise look exactly the same. Why isn't he growing some kind of a beard of any kind? Why isn't he looking even more fish-like at this point? That would have been really cool to see. We didn't get that. So, all in all, kind of a bummer.
It does.
What are you hoping they do? Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, it does tease the return of Davy Jones at the end, which in and of itself doesn't even make sense with the story they just told. They just told a story where all curses were broken, but Davy Jones is still going to look exactly like Davy Jones looked like. So, I mean, I guess if they move forward, I'd be interested to see if they can maybe continue off of that in an actual compelling way. But maybe they should also start completely fresh, but not if they're going to bring back all the original characters. I don't know. I mean, I want to see the movie in the sense that I don't want to end where we ended. But in my perfect world, we would have ended 2 movies ago.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Well, it's going to come down to casting, but ultimately they've got to have a really great script and a great director to bring this together, because if we don't have the originality and we don't have a super tight script like we had with the first 2, particularly, it's going to fall flat. It's, Johnny Depp being back as Captain Jack Sparrow will not be enough to drive this forward. So hopefully
because it wasn't enough for the last 2.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And we even had Barbosa in On Stranger Tides, and but it wasn't quite enough.
And he was in Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, just a character of himself.
Yeah.
What made these
A
characters
caricature.
great was completely lost in the fourth and fifth movie. So that's definitely a disappointment. I'll recap real quick. I mean, it's pretty easy to follow, but I'll do like a quick 1 minute recap if you're cool with that.
Okay.
The definitive ranking of Pirates of the Caribbean is such. In number 1, we have The Curse of the Black Pearl. It's obviously the quintessential action film of the 2000s. It's really, really great. Lightning in a bottle. Then followed up by Dead Man's Chest, ranked in the number 2 slot. Everything is upped. The stakes are bigger. It gets a little overbloated, but it's still really great. Great characters, great fun, great visuals as well. Then in the 3 slot, we have the next movie, At World's End. I think you're maybe seeing a trend here. And this movie suffers much more from being overstuffed. It drags along at times, but that's not to say that there aren't great moments and great ideas in this movie. There's plenty to love about this movie still. It's just not quite as high as the previous 2. Then, surprise, surprise, in the 4 slot, we have On Stranger Tides. This is a pretty severe drop-off from At World's End. Still enjoyable, but not nearly to the quality of the previous movies. And then lastly, I would say the movie that is actually pretty horrible is Dead Men Tell No Tales. Complete character assassination on every returning character for that fact. And honestly, just sucks. It's boring. It sucks. It makes no sense. It's hard to watch. Hopefully, they wrap it up with a better movie at the very end.
Yeah, it's such a waste of Javier Bardem.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Seriously, I forgot that he was even in this movie.
Yeah, it's not often that he's forgettable in things.
And you know what? I'll say one more thing, just because it bugs the crap out of me. This movie came out right in that time where every single project or like legacy project was doing this thing where it's like, well, we have to show the audience how their main character got all of their equipment. Like, we got to give a whole backstory for all the equipment. We need a flashback for Jack to get his hat and his pistol and his compass and all these things. Like, we don't need that. The same way we don't need to see how Boba Fett got his armor in the Boba Fett series. We don't need to see how Indiana Jones got his whip. You know, like, we don't need it.
Well, I think that last one that you mentioned, I think, is actually the only time it's ever really worked.
You're right. I forgot that they actually showed us that. So you're right. That's a bad example because I agree. The opening scene of The Last Crusade is rather good. So I take that one back.
It's really good.
Please don't hate on me.
It's the only time. It's the only time.
The only time.
All right. Well, that wraps up our conversation on Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's really quickly talk about our homework from last week and assign some new homework this week. I gave you Inside Llewyn Davis from the Coen Brothers. What did you think?
Did you see my Letterboxd review?
No, I go out of my way to not read your Letterboxd reviews on the homework until after our episode records.
Fair enough. I'll be honest, I didn't love it. I didn't really have major expectations for it one way or another. I went into it pretty open mind. I think it was made very well. I wasn't bored or not invested or anything like that. I think Oscar Isaac was really good. But I think ultimately it was kind of just an event or a series of events that were rather depressing. And ultimately, I think it just told a story that I wasn't super interested in. I think it touched on some interesting points where the tragedy is the fact that he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. And so he kind of just got lost in the middle of never quite reaching his dreams. I do think that's interesting. But I just think in execution, I don't think I would ever revisit it. I don't think I would necessarily recommend it. But I do appreciate it for what it was.
So that's the part of it that I think is going to be problematic for you, because I think that this is a film that rewards rewatches, and every time you see it again, you're like, oh, I really like that. I really like it. So for me, the first viewing, I was like, okay, how did I feel about that? The second viewing, I was like, oh, this is a lot better than I remember it being. And the third viewing, I was like, this is a great movie. I really like this movie a lot.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll rewatch it eventually. I won't be completely shut off to the idea. Because it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. It just wasn't.
I think that's the case with a lot of Coen Brothers films. I think that a lot of Coen Brothers films leave you maybe the very first time going, okay, it was good. did I love it? And then as you continue to watch them, you're like, I absolutely freaking love this movie. So that's my take on it.
That's really interesting in like contrast to a Nolan film, right? Where I leave a Nolan film and I'm like, I did love that. And then every time I watch it after that, I'm like, I love it more now. You know, so it's funny with theirs. Maybe I start off on, I don't know if I loved that, and then maybe an appreciation is grown over time. I don't know. So I'll revisit eventually, just not anytime soon.
Okay, fair enough.
I gave you Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, a movie that I know is kind of in your watch list.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was adorable. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know that I guess I don't know that it needed to be a film. Like, I could appreciate this as like a whole bunch of 10-minute episodes kind of thing. Yeah. Which I think is kind of how it started, as shorts. Yeah. I don't know that I needed a 2-hour movie necessarily. But there's all kinds of little moments that make that make your heart feel warm, that make your heart sad a little bit, that just kind of touch. I mean, it's really cute, really great performances, and I enjoyed it. It's definitely one of those things where I feel like taken in little snacks is a better way to appreciate it than sitting down and going through it. I can't imagine having gone to the theater to watch that film, to be honest.
Yeah, no, fair, totally fair.
But I had fun. I enjoyed it. It was cute, and it was a nice also palate cleanser from some of the other heavier stuff I've been watching, whether it's Slow Horses or Task or some of these other shows that I've been watching,
or The Road from last week.
Or The Road from last week. It was definitely a palate cleanser from The Road. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
That's fair. Can you think of any moments or lines that you found particularly funny or cute?
Yeah, I mean, you're putting me on the spot, I guess, to try and remember exactly.
Well, that was part of your homework I mentioned last week. I said, come to me with one or two scenes that stood out to you.
Yeah, sorry, I don't remember that. I will say that the scene when the squirrel gets in the house was pretty funny. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. Just like the freak out of that. I thought it was really cute how she like was sliding down the blanket on the couch to put dust on a table so that they could then like ice skate on the table. Yeah. And make little designs in the dust. That was really cute. And then I think that the other point that stood out to me was as she's thinking about the idea of a map and like, oh yeah, just getting a high view. Like I get up on the mantle and I look down and I can see everything. And then when they actually do drive up onto like a high point in LA and they're looking down, she's like, whoa. Yeah. What the heck? Like that's everything. And he's like, no, that's just one little part of this city. There's a whole lot of those. And also, by the way, there's a whole lot of other cities. And just, it was really heartbreaking how sort of Marcel had that realization that his worldview was wrong. That this world is not only bigger than Marcel realized, but so much more intimidating and dangerous. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember. That's good. I remember there was like one line that made me laugh pretty hard, and I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember it exactly. But Marcel's asking like why people say peace. Yeah. And it's like, that's right. It's like, isn't that obvious? Who wouldn't want peace?
Who doesn't want peace?
And then he's like, what are you supposed to say?
I'm into war.
Yeah. It's like, and now prepare for battle.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
that was cool.
I'm glad I was able to cleanse your palate.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. All right. Well, what are you giving me this week? Something similarly lighthearted?
No. I wanted to dirty your palate after that. Okay. It's the last week of October for the episodes at least. So I wanted to give you something a little on the spookier side. It's not too spooky, but it's called The Mist. I don't have any information pulled up on it because I forgot to do that. So I'm not going to tell you anything about it except I'm not expecting this to blow you away. I just think it's fitting for the season. I think it's good enough, and I think there will be some characters that you hate.
Okay, fair enough. I will check out The Mist. I am also giving you something I think is seasonally appropriate, but a comedy. I am giving you What We Do in the Shadows. Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi and others. I think you'll really. I hope that you find this as funny as I do. I know that some of Taika's humor is something that you do appreciate.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that translates. This is a mockumentary about vampires, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's hilarious. I absolutely love this movie, and I hope you like it too.
Yeah, it's kind of been on the list for a little while, so I'm excited to visit it.
Good. You'll probably need the subtitles because those New Zealand accents are thick in this, and they're
Okay.
really good. So
Okay.
just fair warning. I know
use
you like the
subtitles
subtitles
anyways.
sometimes. I know you do. So, all right. Well, we ranked and debated. We disagreed, though not about who shot first. All just another day in the galaxy.
So whether you're Gen X, Gen Z, or somewhere lost in the timeline, please continue to listen, like, share, and subscribe to I Am Your Father.
Until the next episode, remember that with great power comes a great second breakfast, but winter is also coming. So may the force live long and prosper with you.
Hide the rum.
Hide the rum.